This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded December 7th, 2016. Episode 326, Magical Fire Bags.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
What's up, nerd?
Freezing my ass off. Turns out you have to be in a basement to be really cold.
Basement?
Well,
I thought your new apartment didn't have a basement.
No, I used to be in a basement, but you don't need to be in one to get to be cold. That's what I'm saying. It's cold everywhere around here. So. To which
Chicago.
People say, Chicago, of course, right, yeah.
No shit, Sherlock, is that what they say?
Right, yeah, pretty much, yep. Right, yep. So,
Sorry.
met a lot of good people here yesterday. I had my first meetup, which I mentioned at the beginning of last show. Yeah,
yep.
And, it was great. I mean, great crowd, great, it's interesting just kind of hear, until people really come out of the woodwork, you don't even know what industry's around, but, there's some prosthetics people. Inventables is here, which is the they make the Carvey and the X-Carve.
Yep.
There's special effects people, and there were general hardware people, and a couple people from that M-Hub space around here. So overall,
how do you do you just turn up and just hang around until someone talks to you, or do you talk to someone, or is there some sort of formal, do you have some sort of formal thing where everyone introduces themselves or wears name tags or whatever?
No, so people, no, definitely not. No, you mean the anatomy of a drinking meetup like this?
Yes, I think name tags are a good thing. I really do. Name and where you're from. I
don't think that's as important. Oh, look, my radiator just kicked on, so you'll hear that probably, some hissing. So charming. I think it's not as important with name tags as much as if people have projects, they'll just introduce themselves because they want to hear about the project, right? So if you have, right. And honestly, that's how I was there first, and the only reason people even knew who I was is because I had that blinky heart that I made, and I just had it pulsing on the bar. So
right. Yep.
Just you need some kind of way to start things, and then.
Yeah, it's but they're if you look back to the old homebrew computer club, for example, they had a formal Lee, what's his name? Lee Felsenstein ran that, and he would conduct things from the front. They had it in what university's hall was it? They had it in one of the theaters or whatever, and and he would call people down, and they'd give a little 5-minute spiel on whatever they're working on and stuff like that, and he'd conduct the thing.
Yeah, that's another way. So, that's how I do the San Francisco meetup that I run.
Oh, okay, right.
That's a lot more formal.
It's more formal.
There's actual talks and stuff like.
Right.
Yeah, and there are different ways of doing it. I always recommend that people do the informal thing though, because it's so much less intimidating, right? Someone might say, "Oh, I have to talk. I'm not going to show up."
No, but it can be intimidating for people who can't just approach people and start, "Hi, how you doing? I'm such and such."
Well, usually I'm there drinking a beer already, so I'm like, "Hey, come on in."
Right, but usually there's no one free around, and you don't want to butt into two other people who are deeply in conversation, and usually there's 2 or 3 people. People are in their little subgroups.
Right,
and then you suddenly walk in and go, right, who do I talk to? I can't just butt in, What do you just hang around to other people and listen for a while? And
are you asking because you're actually going to do a meetup or what?
I don't know. I might. I just no. I've been to things I've been to YouTube events and stuff like that. It's a similar sort of thing. You turn up. I don't know anyone. Right, I don't have a clue, but yes, we have everything in common. We're all YouTubers, and yeah, we've got name tags and stuff, but I still don't know them from a bar of soap, right?
Are you asking me how to talk to people, Dave? Because this is a longer conversation.
No.
We might need more than an hour here. I'm just saying.
No, what's that? No, seriously. You walk in and everyone's in their groups, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So everyone's talking to someone, and you can't just go and walk up to 2 people talking and go, "Hi, how you doing? I'm Dave." Because they're I think that's a bit rude, right? They're talking, so you got to wait until there's another free person hanging around at the food table or something before you can walk up and go, "Hi, how you doing?" It's anyway.
You're right. We shouldn't do this at all because of that.
No, I just find them awkward. That's all.
They are a little awkward at first, but then it usually turns out fine. Especially
Sure,
like I said,
but then how
people
does
having
everyone
hardware,
meet everyone? It's almost like you need like a speed date, kind of, like
sort of.
sit down like 5 minute, talking to everyone. It's like just to break the ice kind of thing.
Look, we talk about it all the time, but if you have a project, people will come up and then they'll just listen over your shoulder, and then it's like you're going to be demoing that. I think that's just the way to do it. You encourage as many people as you can, and like out of the 25 people that showed up last night, probably 15 to 20 had projects to show. That breaks the ice immediately.
Right.
So
as the organizer, do you see people come in and immediately go up and say, "Hi, come on, welcome in," and this is,
if I can recognize them,
right? If I was well, at least because everyone knows you're organising it, right? So you should be looking out for new people coming in. You can usually spot them a mile away, right? So if I was to do this, I'd probably go. I'd probably do it that way. If we're all in there and somebody comes in, then I'd go get them, bring them in, and hi, how you doing? Who are you? And then I'd introduce them to everyone, and then I don't know, maybe.
Okay, well. You give that a shot. You let me know how that goes. Because then you'll have done a meetup, and then you're good. Yeah.
Right.
You got about 4 months until I come and do one for you. So.
Right. Okay. Well, no, the new office building I'm in now has a meetup room, like has a meeting room, and I've been thinking, but it's tight. It's pissing.
Do it at a pub, man. That's the way to do it.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's just casual.
Probably.
Casual. Yep. People want to talk to one another. Most people want to talk to one another, or they want to hear about projects. Those two things together, you'll be fine. So anyways, thanks to everyone who did come out last night. I did miss one person, and I apologize about that. But otherwise, it was good.
You missed someone. Someone was there, and you didn't even say hi.
It was early, so. Anywho, yep.
This is how you suck eggs, Chris.
Okay.
Anyway,
hey man,
next.
At least I'm trying.
No, it's good. No, it's good.
I have a humble request because I'm an idiot.
Okay.
People may recall that
a humble request of me or of the audience?
Of the audience, yeah. Oh, right. I posted this T-shirt that I made and was really excited about. One? Yeah, the Bodge one. And then
even I've got a Bodge T-shirt.
Yeah, I don't have one because I was an idiot and didn't order one. The last
didn't
time
order your own T-shirt.
Yeah, I didn't order one.
So you need enough people to buy it so it gets made again.
Yeah, I mean, do you like the shirt? I mean, I don't know. Is it any good?
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of it's kind of subtle. Nobody's gonna know, I don't get too many stares wearing it.
Oh well, it's not a big layout or something, I suppose. But anyways, so I'll repost it on the subreddit. So. All
right, buy the shirt so that Chris doesn't feel like an idiot.
I probably still will, but at least I'll have a story to tell with it. So, right. What's been going on with you? What's new in Aussie-land?
I've been making videos. I've been doing stuff.
Yeah, what did I see? You made one about ERC, is that right?
I just released that this morning. I have no idea. YouTube's screwing up. I swear YouTube is not announcing things properly. I did like a live contest draw the other day and a live show tacked on the end of that. Haven't done one for ages. And half the people out there said I was not notified that you went live. It's like, what the? Anyway, it's been happening a lot with YouTube lately.
That's
pain in the butt. But yeah, I've been doing a project, my little a counter display project, and it's not getting that many views. It's not,
Wait, is this new?
Kind of Yeah, it's new. I'm up to part 3.
Oh, I missed this. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And what is the basis of it? Like, what's it for?
I'm not going to tell you what it's for.
Oh, it's just a counter though. It's like a big display counter.
It's a display counter using Russian IN-12 Nixie tubes.
Oh.
Very cool.
This isn't like the idea where I said you should have a counter behind you when you do EEV Blab videos so that it turns off.
Oh, right. That could do that. Yeah, whatever happened to the EEV? Yeah, I thought that was a good idea way back.
Me too, yeah.
EEV. Well, no, I did end up doing EEV Blab,
I know.
And I still do it occasionally. But
no, but my idea was to have it just shoot out the IR
countdown timer behind. Yeah,
and turn it off automatically.
Yep. Yeah, and turned off automatically. And I did do that.
It's interesting how that stuff motivates, too, because... so I do that a little bit with the 2-minute videos I used to do, but like not really. Right. I don't actually have it shut off. Yep. But there's this thing. I've been writing more articles lately, and there's this thing called the most dangerous writing app.com, I think it's called. And so like you can set it like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. If you stop typing for 5 seconds, it erases everything you've done.
Oh, right. I was going to say, right.
It's great. It slowly starts getting red, and then it just erases all of it.
So you're just hitting space, backspace, space, backspace, space.
Yeah,
backspace.
actually, I think you can do that. There's something called like a difficult mode or something, and I think it doesn't count those. So you actually have to be typing characters, I think.
Real words, real comprehensible words.
It motivates you though, I'll tell you.
Right.
It's great. Yeah.
No, I can dig it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like in the end I thought it was too forced and, distractive, I think.
Gotcha.
Possibly. So,
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, that's right.
Yep.
So Nixie tubes though, so that's like the 100. Did you build the supply yourself or what?
No, somebody sent one in the mailbag.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Sure.
That's how I got the inspiration. Somebody sent me 8 tubes along with the high voltage power supply in there, and
Oh,
I
nice.
thought, why not?
Did you get popped yet?
Popped,
Popped by the high voltage?
as in shocked.
Yeah. Popped, like popped.
No, popped. No, I don't know this terminology.
I just did. Yeah.
Sorry. Nope.
It's okay. But have you gotten shocked yet?
No, I haven't.
No.
What, you think I'm stupid?
Accidents happen.
They do. And I'm surprised they don't, because, I'm waving my hands around trying to watch the camcorder screen, and I'm turning the high voltage supply off and on, and all these exposed wirings on the breadboard and everything else. And, I'm surprised I haven't copped one yet. Probably happened. But anyway, I finished my, exposed breadboard videos, so it's all good now. I survived.
Okay. That's good.
Yep. So anyway, I'm doing a multi-part series where I build that project up, and then
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yep. So it's up to part 3. Next step will be the PCB, and then I'll get that manufactured, and then video after that will be assembly, and then the programming and testing.
Yeah.
So, yep. I am using one of those little, which we talked about the other week, the ESP8266 Arduino environment version of that.
Oh, yeah? Oh, cool. What, and that's just going to, set at the time?
You talked about the Adafruit Huzzah one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's basically, I believe it's like the same chip, but it's just...
Yeah, so that's the
it's
Espressif
not
chip.
Adafruit's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, so
No.
Espressif, and that's where, if people know Sprite TM...
so that's different to the ESP8266.
No. So that's the company that makes the chipset that's on the ESP8266, which is a module that
Right.
then goes on the Huzzah board from Adafruit. So you can buy just a module yourself, but then usually you'll have to program the firmware image onto the
Right.
module, which then
Okay.
or I think you can just buy I guess mine's in the other room, but you can just buy the chip, or you can just buy the metal can module. Like the FCC test.
Okay,
It's not
right,
even
yes,
tested, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm using the WeMOS module, the WeMOS D1 Mini.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and
they
that's got
seem
like
to use their
other
own
stuff on it,
can.
or what?
and no, it's just one of these ESP8266 chips on a little interface board, which you plug into the Arduino environment, because the Arduino environment now has a compiler for the 8266
Exactly,
apparently.
yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a couple different ways you can program those things now. I remember at the beginning it was just like C and Lua, I think, and then
Yep, right.
then there was an Arduino thing for it, and now I've been talking about the MicroPython stuff, and there's a couple other ones just because it's cheap.
Yep.
It's really cheap.
And the reason I could have chosen absolutely any Internet of Things solution, Wi-Fi solution for this, anything that has Wi-Fi in it and a micro.
Yeah.
But the reason I chose this one is because somebody's already done on their webpage. There's actually a 16-year-old kid who's done this.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's
really
awesome.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. So he has basically the code for almost the exact thing I want to do, and it uses this WeMOS D1 module. So I went, there's my choice made.
Right,
because
exactly.
I don't want to have to respin the why should I respin the wheel learning how to do all this web programming shit from scratch and APIs and calling,
Right.
I'm hopeless at all that web programming stuff.
Right.
I know I should force myself to learn it, but I just want to get this thing made.
I think what you're doing is you start with the right step, where it's like
Exactly.
you start with a working app. It's like, okay, I have this on the internet,
code
and
that
then
works. Here it is. So I
Yeah,
duplicate
exactly.
their code, and I just wire, and then all I've basically got to do is the only code I've got to write is my own custom interface to drive my serial driver chips. That's it.
Yeah.
But apart from that, all of the other API stuff is all the same. All the web interface and all that crap is all done.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, all that hard work. So
So how is it going to interact with the so the thing that I was actually interested in with the ESP is that it can act as an access point, which means that like I'm not saying this to you, I think know this, but
I'm not using it as an access point. I'm using it as to pull information from the web.
Right.
As
so
a device
you are so there's one mode where it acts as the access point, so like your phone can hook into the network that says ESP, network name, whatever.
No. Yes.
But you're actually programming it so that you hook it into your Wi-Fi network, and then it sits as a device.
Yep. It sits as a device. It's like it's another computer hooked onto my Wi-Fi network.
Right. And and then what are you interacting with that with?
I won't tell you. That's going to be the big reveal in the final video. I'm going to pull some information from the internet and I'm going to display it.
Interesting. Okay. That's great. Awesome.
Yes. I'll tell you after the show.
Okay. Yes. That's cool. Yeah, because we've been talking more and more about these internet devices and stuff like that, and I think it's like at least for me, like understanding these different pieces of like, okay, so now you and I are using it in the same way. We're both hooked in from the device onto our network, right? And then it's like, okay, so now for me at least, it's like if I'm on my internal router's Wi-Fi, right, and the 192.168, whatever the address is, or the 10.0, whatever mine is, then I can hook to that with like a serial terminal or whatever. But then the thing that I think that we have talked about in the past, like with like a like Adafruit has Adafruit.io, and then there's like the Electric Imp, and then there's the
I've thought about using the Imp, but but
no, who's the other one though? There's the other Arduino-based one, which is they just raised like $10 million too.
Oh, did they? Oh,
the ones who do with Particle. Yeah, so they used to be
Particle.
Yeah, they used to be called something else. Spark. They used to be called Spark.
Oh, okay.
Right? They used to be called Spark, and now they're called
Spark.io thing. I think it was Spark.io.
Yeah, something like that. And they ended up changing their name because there's so many things that were called Spark. But yeah,
right.
so because
now it's there aren't, and they chose Particle. Like
I'm sure it's partially about what you can get named for, whatever. But anyway, so they make the Photon and they make the Electron, and those are like Wi-Fi or 3G based modules that then have like an AT Mega 328 on them as well, so you can use them like an Arduino. But
and you can hook up a Raspberry Pi to it and whatever.
I guess probably.
Well, that's what I'm looking on the website. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh no, that's their new. They just announced that. They actually. So that's what I was gonna add, is they have an interface layer, right? So if you wanted to have, and I think we mentioned this on the show before. If you want to have like 100 devices out there, there's stuff there's like a server side that will then go and manage all those devices. So now if it's pushing data up to a network that's going to collect all that data, kind of like when we had Luke on the show, he does analog.io. It was kind of like that he used a similar type service, then he displayed all that stuff.
Right, so they've got their own service platform thing, do they?
Right. Like it's like a data collection platform. And so like that's what I'm getting at, is like that is the missing piece. That is like the next layer of the internet.
And we've talked about that, and as soon as they go out of business, your product stops working.
Right, exactly. And so that's what I was going to segue into, is that we have another thing where that
we do
service layer is going to go away because the company behind it is failing, or got bought.
And it's probably the big name out there in the smartwatch business, Pebble.
Yeah.
Pebble,
it's unfortunate.
Pebble, you could say Pebble almost started the smartwatch, the modern smartwatch, hype.
Yeah, I think they definitely were the most successful commercially and they did great on Kickstarter, and we had Andrew on the show. People don't remember Andrew Whitty, the CTO, is on the show. I haven't talked to him in a while, but we'll try and get in contact with him at some point. But yeah, it's unfortunately they just announced that they were getting bought by Fitbit.
Yep.
For only $40 million, which means it's pretty much like it's a pittance for like how much money they raised.
It is, because, and here is the thing, there's a Hackaday article which will linked to? Who wrote that? Alistair Allen.
Yeah.
I assume you know Alistair?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Alistair.
Yeah.
With the D.
So Alistair used to also write for Make as well. So.
Okay. Right. Anyway, yes, there's an interesting article here on how they Pebble turned down $740 million to be bought out by Citizen. I mean, Citizen, great watch company, right? One of the, what went through their mind to think that they were so big and so important that they would turn down a $740 million from Citizen? I
actually didn't even know that was a watch company. I guess I should have, but yeah.
Right.
You never know. I mean, it could be it wasn't the right fit or something.
Yeah,
but...
that is the...
That is a lot of dough.
That is the epitome of stupid.
You don't have all the information.
No,
but I mean,
come on. Yeah, but come on. I mean, I can understand.
That's a lot of money to turn down. That's for sure.
If you turned it down on principle because you hated Citizen or something like that, but I doubt they did. Right? I'm going to guess here, wild speculation, but I'm probably 80% correct, is that they thought that it was a bad offer and they were worth more because they're Pebble, and they were so built up by their own hype that they turned it down, and it was stupid. And after that, boom, then they turned down an offer of $70 million by Intel earlier this year, and oops, and now they sold out for like 20-30 million to Fitbit finally, because now their balls are on the chopping block, and so they could have taken $740 million. Let this be a lesson to you people. If you have this new fad Kickstarter, which Pebble was, and you become the industry standard or whatever, don't think you're irreplaceable. You're just a fad smartwatch, and take the money on the table. Especially when it's $740 million. Right? It's very few companies can afford to, will do better than that. When you get a huge offer like that, you have to be the next Google. You have to be the next, Uber or something. You've got to be next Facebook. Somebody that huge. I mean, just because you have a smartwatch. No, I'm sorry, that's not enough.
Right.
No, they should have.
I was reading an article today, actually, from Bryce, who runs the Indie VC. He's it's like a small. They fund smaller companies and stuff like that. But he was talking about like the hype from that, and like
the
how
hype from what?
Oh, just like how it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And what did he say? He said, you don't need a master plan, you just need to start. He says that he sits through all these meetings where everybody says you're going to be a $1 billion market. He says, I probably sat in 8 unicorn presentations recently, meaning that they're supposed to be unicorns, whatever. And 5 of them.
People don't know, unicorns are a $1 billion valued company.
Right.
That's what a unicorn is.
He said, and 5 of them use the word trillion. I don't think I had heard the word trillion in an investor presentation before that day.
Yeah, and then 5 of them come along because they get so hyped up that they're going to be worth so much. And
right. That is the downside, right? Yeah.
And
actually, I do like what he says here too. He's like, a lot of the big companies that you do hear about, even the Ubers and stuff like that, they start small, right? I mean, we talk about that a lot too, right? Especially with hardware. To be fair, Pebble too, right? I mean, like Eric, the founder, was starting watches before they started raising money and Kickstarter, anything like that. They were just building stuff they wanted to build. Eric was a watch designer anyways, so.
No. But no, this is like, you make smartwatches. That's all your company does. Okay, they're kind of all right, but hey, there's many others out there. And then you get an offer by one of the world's biggest watch companies for $740 million, and you think that's a bad deal.
We don't know. Well, so the other thing is that they, so I don't know if people saw the most recent Kickstarter. They did a third Kickstarter, and they were kind of doing it. So the reason Alistair wrote about the platform is because there's other stuff on there, which is kind of interesting. And so there's a strap, like a smart strap, basically. And so introducing other sensors and stuff like that. Actually, really interesting stuff. There's the Pebble Time as well, which is, I think, just the module itself. And so these were like platform level things where you didn't have to just make it into a watch. You could make it into like a service, right? You could have you could use these small modules to talk to one another or talk to the central servers and stuff like that. But once again, now we're at the point where those servers are not really good. There was a second article about those are going away.
Fitbit have announced that they'll basically be no longer supporting the Pebble watch, pretty much. That's basically what they're saying, isn't it? So it's like
they
if you're
they
relying
snuck it
on
in there that like eventually the servers are gonna they're gonna go get shut down. Even if they don't get shut down right away, they're gonna be less reliable. There's not gonna be if you don't have good network engineers watching that stuff, those it's not really bit rot, but it's just like they fall into disrepair even just because everything else moves on.
Where is the $20-30 million value in Pebble then? Where is it?
Probably patents and design, and I don't know. Probably, and don't forget the employees. I mean, like.
Yeah, true, but they're probably going to go, bugger this. I'll just wait for my maybe. 6 month, thing, and then I'll bugger off.
Yeah. I mean, that's all speculation on my part. I don't know, but it's a shame, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. So.
Yeah, anyway, take the money on table, people. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's two things to that story.
But like I said, we had Andrew on the show. That was a pretty good show too, I remember. So go back.
Which leads us
listen
to the rise and fall of the 3D printer industry.
Other people we've had on the show.
Yes, we have had Zach, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yes, co-founder of MakerBot. And there's a huge article, it's absolutely enormous, on backchannel.com. I've never seen backchannel.com before, but anyway, it's the rise and fall of the everyman tycoon. And of course, they're talking about Bree Pettis, the founder of MakerBot, and massively long article on how, the rise and then the sort of eventual flop of MakerBot.
Right. Well, I think that was the Everyman Tycoon referring to Bree. I thought they were referring to like anyone could be like making stuff for themselves, like become a tycoon of printed things. Printed
things or something like. Yeah. So I haven't read the whole article. It's Yep.
It's it is an interesting history. And did you ever end up watching the documentary?
No, I don't think so. I think I started and then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's on Netflix, and it's I was really worried because I had seen it. Debuted at Maker Faire. Like there was they showed parts of it, then they had like a Q&A with the filmmaker, and it seemed really fluffy, and I was really not looking forward to it. Then I just clicked over to it one day, and it ended up, it was actually really good. I mean, it was like, it was a good documentary. They got lots of voices in there, and it's the same kind of thing of like these same stories of hype and all this, like I think a lot of people that are listening probably know people, they know the story, they know people that have worked there, and it's like, there's a lot of stuff that went on, but it's just, at the end of the day, when you start scaling to these different levels, it's it gets really tough. It gets tough because it's tough in any company. Even, an insurance company that big is just as hard as a hardware company just because of the people aspects. But then there's the fact that they're, with MakerBot or even Pebble, right? It's that they're making things for a crowd that doesn't really seem to exist, right?
Right.
Like there's only.
They 3D printers could become the next Cabbage Patch doll, that everyone must have at Christmas, but there's just
maybe.
they're still too finicky and they're still too expensive, and that's not easily solvable. People thought it would, right? People thought like a couple of years back, even, we were probably talking about every second week on the Amp Hour, they're going to be $100 and everyone's going to have one in the Christmas stocking. They're going to be so ubiquitous. And like, no, I mean, you can't reduce the complexity of a 3D printer. To have a reliable 3D printer that works properly, there's, you have to put so much engineering into it that it's,
well,
we have not
there's
seen
another
the
piece in there
$100
too.
printer.
I mean, it's that most people just don't need them.
No, exactly. They don't need them. They're a cute toy, but they're slow. So you can't instantly make them. I know.
I have one. When's the last time you used yours, Dave?
It's well, a couple of months back, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it just did not live up to the hype, and part of that is just that people were overestimating what engineering, could do, right? You can't just magically simplify a 3D printer and make it. You can't just apply money and time and make it 100 times faster, 100 times more reliable, 100 times simpler. You can't. It's just not happening, right? You still got the XY motors that move around. You still got to heat up the bloody plastic. You still got to feed it from a thing with the head and an extruder nozzle, and it's got to work reliably. And then the platform has to be level, and you've got to get all the alignment. And the stepper motors can't slip, and they can only work at a certain speed. And you want to. People thought these would be in everyone's Christmas stocking for $100.
Yeah.
No. There's a reason it hasn't happened, and
Yep.
it was just stupid to think it would. But many people thought they would.
We were part of it, I'm sure. So we were talking about it too. So
maybe, but anyway, it's still a big market. It's probably as big as they said it would be. It's a $2 billion market or something like that. But it's not. Hasn't made it down to the every person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, fail. Do we have any more fail on the list?
Oh, I'm sure we do.
I like this. This is interesting. This is on Ken Shirreff's blog. And just the headline just makes you think. The Intel x86 documentation has more pages of documentation than the 6502 has transistors.
Right.
I just like that. Just like my mind.
And that's the one from 2011 too. So.
Right, yeah, it's an old post, but we've just somehow just seen it. 2013.
No, sorry,
actually.
No, it's 2013. No, that's the 2011 manual. So.
Oh, right, yes, the 2011 manual. Yeah, it could be even huger now. So.
Yeah.
Yep. So as a comparison, the 6502 has 3,510 transistors.
Yeah.
Or actually maybe as many as 9,000 depending on the variant or something, I think. But that many pages of documentation.
And that's so I think a while ago, maybe on the list, I don't know where it is, but people were asking why do people still care about it? Like there's still, well, I guess no, sorry, it wasn't the 6502, it was the
the 8051.
Yeah, 8051, right. And so, but it's that is a lot of places, right? So even if you look at like that what's that TI module, the CC2540, I think there it has 8051 core, and it's like other places.
TI's variant of 8051 core. Yeah. It's because the patents have expired. You don't have to pay a license fee to anyone.
Yeah, but I mean, it also works and it's well known, and like there's just lots of things like that where it is still accessible, and it's still you can there's people out there that write assembly for it, and it's workable, right? Whereas the new stuff, it's like, well, you have to have a compiler and you got to do all the way through and stuff like that, and it's just a more heavy-handed thing, so that introduces new things, right? It's almost like a ain't broke, don't fix it piece.
Right.
Yeah. That is a lot of pages, though.
It's ridiculous.
It's gotta be boring too, huh?
Imagine like you're in charge of that documentation.
Oof.
Like, holy crap, like how many people have they got working on that? It's just ridiculous,
Yeah.
It just reminds me of the old Maxim data books. Do you remember the Maxim data books?
Dave, I actually never used a real data book in my life. I've seen them, I've flipped through them, but I've never actually used one in earnest. So tell me about them.
You're serious?
Yeah. What do I need a data book for?
How did you become the co-host of the Amp Hour? I don't understand this.
You're right. I am announcing my resignation December 7th, 2016 at 6:50 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am resigning of the Amp Hour. Good luck posting this. I don't think you even know how to anymore.
It would be a struggle.
Anyways, go ahead. I'm not old. I'm not as old.
Before PDF and the web, we're talking almost into the late 90s, right?
Yeah, Dave.
At least mid 90s, right? Before sort of, people started to think, when did PDF come out? And it was before that.
When did the format come out? Yeah, it's when it came a lot sooner
it's
than
before
it got
that,
used, I'm sure. So
Anyway, it wasn't until the late 90s. Anyway, so Maxim were coming out with 500 chips every year, which was plus that was like that was a slow year, 500 new chips, and that was one of the reasons why they couldn't ship it. Maxim got their famous reputation for never being able to supply parts. If you if you built in a Maxim, engineers to this day will never touch Maxim chips because of that. They were burnt by that. Back in the 90s,
Yep.
And supply availability, that'll be 50 weeks lead time, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. That
I know.
was,
Oh, you're not saying that for me.
And they, how do you release this information? There was no internet. Okay, there basically was, or there was no, PDF and all that as we know it today, websites and stuff like that. So how do you release it? You printed a new data book. And you could, if you were releasing 500 plus new chips a year, you could not just keep making your data book bigger and bigger, right? Because every year you'd get 500 data sheets. Every data sheet is like 20, 30 pages.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Do the math, right? So one,
that's a lot of paper.
So just 6. So they had, I think, 6 monthly releases of new chips. Please, someone correct me. I'm sorry, I don't have my Maxim data books anymore. But they would, release a new. Okay, this is the, 1991 Maxim data book June. First quarter or something release, and they would release these so you got the latest one. Woohoo! The new one. What new chips have come out?
Right.
Yep. They couldn't fit it all in one data book. And each 6 monthly release would be 1,000 pages. It was incredible.
Right, but there's a lot of, it's not repeated. I mean, I guess it's all necessary information, but it's not like, a lot of that's like I guess that's probably the Intel thing too. It's like pinouts and the different variations on everything. It's like generated data as much as it is like raw, like application data and things like that, right?
Yeah, no, this was, they also had their app note stuff and things like that, new releases. It's like, anyway, it was nuts. And trying to keep up. So you had to have the whole volume set, otherwise you spread over years, otherwise you couldn't get the information on these chips. I mean, it's just
it's
nuts. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is just, and the interesting thing to me is that there never really was a abstraction layer for I guess there has been sort of, but thinking about like we still use linear regulators, right? It's not like we're like
right.
There still are all of the available low level components as well as them being integrated into higher level, like higher abstraction layers of like what's that one I always think about that ADU CM350 I think I mentioned on the show before. That's like the one I always think about, where it's like, it's an analog front end, and which has like an A to D and
it's got
op-amps
everything
and inputs and current source
and
outputs,
sink.
Right? And then it's got like a Cortex M3, and it's got like an RF chip in there, and it's like all this stuff, and only because it's so many individual pieces. But even like the Intel stuff, if you look at an old board, they kept integrating more and more of the individual chips as well. Point being, though, that you can still buy all the low-level chips pretty much, right? They're still available as onesie, twosie. You can still get a linear regulator. You can still get a display, or a shift register, stuff like that.
That's how modern electronics still works.
Right. But
heck, look inside a modern smartphone. You'd think the epitome of, consolidation and automation and integration, right? Have a look at how many different tiny little blobs are on there.
It's true. They are pulling them into bigger black blobs, but like
they are. But still,
like
even with all, that's what I'm saying. Even with all that integration, right? They'll still have 50 chips inside that thing.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, because little onesies here and there to do this and that. Heck, you need 5 regulators just to run a bloody core these days.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a reason to be nostalgic, but it is nice that there's there are still those tools out there to kind of dig into the low. I mean, people still are needed for like working with those lower level things, especially for lower power and stuff.
Dude, I just got an idea for a reality TV show.
Okay.
Take a bunch of young engineers, like all under 25 or something like that, and lock them in a lab. And
you're not allowed out until you make a cell phone to call your way out or something.
You have no internet.
Good Lord,
you
man.
You have no internet. You have to be able to get your information from... Yep. How do you do it? You wouldn't be able to do a thing, right?
That would actually be really interesting. So like, okay, so here's how you could do it on a small level. You could just do it as a hackathon, right? Where like you have to study everything beforehand, but yeah, like the locked room, or you could you hear about those rooms where you have to like break out of them? You know what I'm talking about?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they're like people go to these. They're kind of like they're not haunted houses, but they're like puzzle rooms. You gotta like figure out your way out. But yeah, that would be interesting with like an engineering based one. I think I've seen. I actually met someone around here that was doing one with. It wasn't. I don't think it was like necessarily like code based, but it was definitely like puzzle. The puzzle itself used a keypad, and like you had to use programmable elements to do that stuff. So
right.
Yeah, I like it. I like that idea. That is a novel hackathon.
There was a time, kiddies, and it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. And
yours truly lived through that era where you could not just Google. Like, there was no such thing. There was no such thing. And you couldn't download data sheets. You didn't, didn't exist.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I used to work at a company where, the big resource, oh my God, was the, they had scans of the data books on...
Microfiche?
Hundreds of floppy disks.
Oh, nice.
Right? It was it was the Hinton. Would even Google know about it? I think it was the Hinton HIS system or something. I don't know. Anyway, it was scans of every data book that had ever been done, right? And it was on hundreds and hundreds of floppy disks. Like
this is like a service you buy. You basically get the
you rent this service. Yeah, you couldn't actually buy it. You rent it, and they will send you a computer that's already set up with the software on there, and about 300, 500 floppy disks.
Wow.
And it had all these scans. So there was like an index disk, or there was a couple of index disks. So you would search the index disk to try and find the part number you were after, and I think it may have had some parametric stuff perhaps, which was pretty advanced wizardry for its day. And so you search the chip and it says insert disk number 382. So you'd find that through your floppy, you'd put in that and clunk. It takes a couple of minutes to load up. And bingo, up pops your data sheet and you could print it. Holy crap.
Nice.
That was nothing short of a miracle. It was like black magic.
Yeah, man.
Mind-blowing, I'm telling you.
Yep.
Yet, it's like people would look at that and just go, what the frig?
Right. I do wonder, like, what are the logistics of, like, there isn't even paper stuff these days. Like, maybe you could do it where, like, maybe if you did a hackathon like that, you'd have to, like, give them the equivalent
You'd have to give them data books.
You'd have to give them the equivalent of data books. You could just have, like, a server where the only thing you could hook into is that, but then there's no Stack Overflow, there's no EEV blog forum, there's no...
Right, there's there's nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's no web pages. You can't just Google you can't just Google, Nixie tube schematic, right?
Right.
And bingo, up pots of 1,000 schematics.
Right.
Yep.
Well, so the thing I was getting at with this is that there actually is a simple, quote unquote, machine that was on our list this week. Someone wrote in about it. It's the, I don't know how to say it, Quebec, maybe? QIBEC. But basically, it's an interesting... so it's a 1-bit, 1-instruction transistor-based CPU. And the documentation is actually really
diehards.
Nice. Yeah, so it's...
where is it? I don't see this on the list. Is it too far down?
32 on my list.
Oh, 32. No wonder.
QIBEC.
There it is. Right.
So, and there is a video about it now, too, so you can kind of... get into it some more. And the interesting. What's that?
Quebec, pronounced Quebec.
Is that how you say it? But it was. I'm gonna butcher his name too. Mikai. I'm not sure. Sorry. But it's educational CPU though, but basically the interesting thing is, and there's a bunch of background fundamental stuff, the whole water analogy, which I guess we don't really talk about much on here, but some people don't like. I personally like it. I think it's useful for visualizing electricity.
Yep.
And and so this is like the documentation is really nice, but it's like you can just watch a transition, an instruction kind of go all the way through and handle that stuff. So
1 bit. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. It's you wouldn't make an actual computer like it, but it's good for educational stuff, right?
Well, we've talked about that on here before, and whether the worth of learning computer architecture these days, and stuff.
We talked about it when there was that huge that room-sized computer, right? And that was like replicating.
Yeah, right.
But this is a little bit more like at the fundamental side of things. So like I think they're all very interesting. I think what you and I came down to is that we didn't want to, but we're lazy anyways. So we're probably not a good example.
Right.
I think it's interesting as like if you're going to be doing this stuff anyways, it's good to have an idea of how multiplexers work, how data latches work, all the different addressing and stuff like that. That actually does. It does make a lot of sense to have this, and I think this is a good starting point for this. So. Yeah. Let's see.
Another story I like this week is that it got all the rage a couple of months back, the Samsung Galaxy Note 7.
Oh,
why it exploded. I lost count of the number of people who've asked me to do a video on this. And it's like, I didn't have a Samsung Galaxy Note 7, and you couldn't seem to be able to buy one.
Right.
and B, I assumed that it would be an internal structure problem with the battery, and that's what everyone was saying. Look, it's like a manufacturing issue with the battery, and it's internally shorting, and boom. But this article is actually an inspection teardown of the Galaxy Note 7, and what their conclusion by a company that does these inspection teardown things, for companies. It's like a professional paid service you can have, that reverse engineers and breaks down products and stuff, or something like that. And they took it apart and they came to the conclusion that there wasn't enough margin in the physical design of the battery enclosure.
Yeah, physical margin. You're saying like tolerance.
Physical margin, like tolerance, because lithium-ion batteries swell, right, during the charging process. They're exothermic, boom, et cetera, et cetera. And there are apparently, some rules of thumb in the industry about how much slack around a lithium-ion battery you have to leave, to account for that pressure, the swelling when it charges and stuff like, when it does that. But in this case, it's in is it a machined aluminium case or something? The Galaxy Note 7 is like a high-end phone. It is not machined, plastic.
And you can even see from like the up-close images, you can see the tooling marks on some of these, some of the corners there and stuff. So.
Yeah, so it's got all these little sharp corners and everything, and the tolerances in there are like one tolerance is less than 0.1 millimeters on one end, 0.3 millimeters, 0.5 millimeters. Tiny tolerances. So they jammed this battery in because they had to make, because Samsung were under pressure to compete in terms of battery life. So they really pushed the boundaries of, those design limits, those tolerances, and trying to get that, because they've got a relatively small battery in here. So they had to, or small space for the battery. So they had to, try and squeeze as much capacity in there as they possibly could, because, phone capacity, battery capacity is everything these days. And,
right. Yeah, that for me especially, I hate when my phone goes.
I know, it sucks.
Yeah. As I was telling someone, because I don't have a car anymore, I was like, my phone is also my car, because that's how I call Uber.
Right.
So it's a big deal for me.
You haven't had one of those driverless Ubers, have you? Are they in your city?
No, I think they're just in Pittsburgh right now.
Okay.
Or maybe in California too, but.
Are they actually driverless?
I've only heard rumors.
Like there's no one behind the wheel?
I don't know.
Well, go there, man.
Yeah, I probably won't. Yeah. In snow
We need
season, yeah, I
first-hand
probably
reporting.
won't. I probably won't.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, Samsung pushed this, and it came and bit them on the ass. They didn't get away with it, and not many of these phones exploded. By the way, it's like a relatively small number, but yeah,
Yeah.
the consequences of it
The
are
consequence to the brand was a lot higher than the yeah.
Yes.
I mean, glad good no one got hurt. Well, I don't know if people had.
yeah. No,
I don't
if
think
the
anyone died
battery,
from
if
it,
they
but-
didn't catch, if the battery didn't catch on fire, if they just swelled up and and just failed, then as a lot of cheap ones do, then that's no problem, right? They wouldn't have recalled it or whatever. They would have just, I don't know, fixed it. But why they couldn't fix it? The interesting thing is they actually they said they fixed the problem, and I think they said it was the battery itself, the manufacturing of the battery or something, and they re-released it. They actually sent people replacement units, and the replacement units were catching on fire.
Right.
Once again, very few of them, but hey, once the first replacement unit catches on fire, you're...
Yeah, it's almost a confidence game at that point, right? It's
totally.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's shot. It only takes the one. It takes the one to ruin your company reputation. And so it makes me think, if they knew they were trying to jam the capacity, why didn't the replacement units have a smaller battery with more physical...
Well, it's possible they didn't. I mean, you've probably done that before, right? Like where you're trying to fix a production problem, and you're like, I mean, granted, this is much higher scale production, but I've done this as well, where it's like you think you fixed it. Nope.
Right, and it was something else.
It was like red herring kind of thing where
right, yes, you thought you'd fixed it because you breathed on something and it worked.
Oh man.
But you did something, you thought that made the difference, and you being engineers, we can come up with plausible explanations for anything, right? Our imaginations are too active,
Right. I could try and talk my way out of a paper bag, as the saying goes for people who can't, but in my case, it just leads me right into a different bag.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah, we've all been there, done that. And
I had that for months once.
months.
It was like like when you're trying everything.
Yeah.
This is like if obviously I feel like Car Talk is our spirit animal around here. Obviously they're no longer with us, and but like you hear about their stuff too, where like people are like, well, if I just open the hood of the car and then start it, and then I close it, then it doesn't stall. And they just always would go like,
always
"What made you do that to start with?" Like,
I know.
And
Let's just trying random shit.
Exactly. And I've had the same situation where like we were hitting like one specific component with like a hot air pencil, and then that like knocked it back in tolerance or out of tolerance. Then you hit it with the cooling spray, and then that knocked it back in tolerance, and it wasn't even that part of the board at all, It was just...
Right, yep. It was something else. Yeah.
That's called flailing, folks. That's called flailing. I have a long history of it.
Oh, dear.
Oh, man.
Anyway, it's an interesting article and an interesting hypothesis about what's causing the Galaxy Note 7.
Yes.
Tolerance. There's no tolerance in there to help the battery expand and stuff like that. So when the battery, that's the thing. If you've got a rigid enclosure, like it wouldn't have happened with a plastic enclosure because plastic's got give on it, right? Whereas if you've got a machined aluminium enclosure, aluminum for you Yanks, and a nice machine pocket that it fits into, there's no give in that.
Yeah, right. It doesn't flex.
No, it doesn't flex. It doesn't give. Unless you got a hydraulic press or something. So
that's a different issue, Dave.
I know. So you've got the battery in that pocket, and it swells up, and it can't push against the wall. So where does it give? It gives internally, and the layers, once again, to get the capacity of the battery up, the internal layers have to be thinner and thinner and thinner between the insulation in there. Right, that's how you get surface area. Is how you get capacity in batteries. Right. So
you can either do that by adding more layers or adding some kind of coating that adds some kind of weird pockets on each
dielectric
layer.
thing or micro nano pockets particle. That gives more surface area. Roughs up the surface, so it gives nano surface.
That's like the etching type stuff as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And the same thing for capacitors as well, to get, your 100 that you take for granted, your 100 microfarad 0805, 6 volt, Z what is it? YU dielectric. That's
The
absolutely
VVVV, not very good dielectric, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to get that capacitance in there, they've had to put so many layers and make the dielectric so crap
Yeah.
that,
Right.
there are trade-offs. And that's what they've done here. They've traded off that extra capacity in the battery with the physical layers. So then when it swells up due to the charging or use, it then puts pressure on those layers and punches through. And once you've punched through and short out layers, woof, there's a lot of capacity in there, and that's how it can catch on fire. The current is enormous, and your external battery protection circuitry is not going to help you one bit.
Right.
Either.
I forget who wrote in. Someone wrote in the first time we started talking about this. Someone wrote in, and I think I've mentioned it since, but they gave me my favorite phrase of 2016. Which is batteries are basically magical fire bags.
Magical fire bags.
Which is true, right? I mean, they're just they're storing energy in there, and they become magical fire bags. So
lithium batteries are they're exothermic.
That was Colin. Colin wrote in about that. Yeah,
right.
So Colin wrote in did a bunch of stuff about this. So I think he's battery. Oh, because we talked about Oh, you weren't on that time. Sorry, it was when I was talking to the Macrofab folks. We talked about it there. So. Yeah, apparently Parker said it's not like batteries get bigger as they charge, and Colin says yes, they do. So, so it's interesting. I mean, this stuff, it's a whole field, right? I mean, it really is. Like,
it's a big science behind all this. There's lots of engineering science behind a humble battery.
Yep.
Massive.
I will some of the links that he included, I will include as well. I'll add some of these links to our show notes about batteries.
Hey, what's this about Obama moves to block Chinese acquisition of a German chip maker? What's the deal there?
That was just a
that's a
sensational highlight. No, it's a military technology thing. I didn't realize it was about that.
Okay. Right,
so it's actually, I mean, so that's just like countries being countries, you know.
Yep. Got it.
I don't even understand how that would work, honestly, but you know. But it is at the level where it's like these companies are so big. It's just, you know, ugh. I don't want to talk about that stuff. I've been doing really well. I've just been isolating myself from the news. I've been doing so much better, Dave. Oh, man.
Right.
I'm just going to head in the sand for 4 years. Yeah. Awesome. Great. See you in 4.
All right. You poor bastard. Or you poor bastards.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway.
So yeah, what was the one I wanted to talk about? So there's been a bunch of stuff that have been all the talks from supercon, right? So I've it's involved with supercon. You may notice a lot of familiar faces there. I may have asked a bunch of people that have been on the show to help present at supercon.
You think?
And it's worked out great. So Nadia's was great.
Because A, you know them for a start, and B, you know that they want to tell their story.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
C, I'll ask them to do a talk at SuperCon, and odds are they'll say yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's podcasting is the greatest life hack ever. I get to meet all these people I shouldn't have met, you know. So it works out great.
Well, it works out great if you're in the US.
Yeah, it works out really poorly
or anywhere
for you.
else where the action is.
It's been terrible for you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But anyways, Akiba talks about Shenzhen. I was just watching that one today. Nadia talked about setting up a lab and sourcing stuff while they were at a conference in Shenzhen. And then Sprite, who I mentioned before, who works at Espressif, and we were hoping to have on the show at some point, he talks about that Game Boy. Did you watch that Game Boy thing? The micro Game Boy?
Nope.
Oh, it's fantastic talk. And then finally, the one that I wanted to talk about was was Ben. Ben Krasnow did we all know Ben from his channel.
Of course.
And he did that bullet time one of the camera that David made. Dave was on last week, and that was a fantastic video.
That was great episode.
But I've watched Ben's video about like 3 times, just because I love we've talked to him before. We've had him on the show a long time ago, but he talks about just like the prototyping stuff, and I didn't realize that like they just prototype off of eBay. You know, it's just like when they were. I know Alan talked about this when he was on Embedded, Alan Yates, but they would just like grab like lasers off of like old CD players and DVD players rather, and like use that for prototyping the
the
lighthouse and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think about that. Like, I don't think to do that like application level prototyping, but that is so awesome of these proof of concepts. You know, they're trying to. I always go straight.
Where else are you going to get stuff from?
See, that's my problem. Is I always think I'm like, oh well, we have to go build our own board, right?
Right.
Like that's where my mind jumps to, and it's like, well, that's slow. That's really slow if you're trying to just prove out the general physics concept.
Oh, we have to go build our own laser driver to drive this laser module that I got from this commercial company.
Right.
You know, when you can just go to eBay for $10 and you got your laser drive board and your laser module.
Right, but I mean, that's like a practice. You know, like that's a thing that all the best people do, right? I mean, obviously, you watch Ben's channel and you know he already does this kind of stuff where he's prototyping and he's taking a scientific method to prototyping with these off-the-shelf devices, and it's fantastic to watch. But it's just like, man, like that as a method is just really powerful, and I wanted to call that out here because I don't do that. I mean, like it's like, you know, it's smart, right? I mean, if you look at prototyping, it's like you should duct tape stuff together and see if it even makes any sense. But that's something that I want to work on for myself of just like, okay, I want to see if it's even. So I study all this stuff for product, right? So like I've been doing all these website things and product stuff, and they talk about like the most important thing is getting anything in front of the customer right away. And sometimes you're the customer, and sometimes your coworkers are the customer, sometimes the customer is the customer. But that's basically what this is. It's like, you know, you shouldn't go develop something for 6 months, and at the end they're like, oh, I don't want that, you know? Like,
right.
But that happens a lot, right? Where it's like,
totally.
You know, like you're trying to be secretive about it. You're like, oh, well, I have to hide all this stuff. And it's like, no, just, there are no interesting ideas anymore. Get the idea out there first, and then go back and revise and make it special for your situation. So, I don't know. I really like that talk a lot. It was really good.
Anyway, he made an X-ray backscatter machine with parts on eBay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Very cool.
Which is crazy. Yeah, that's an older video too. A couple years old, right?
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, because when they were doing backscatter with the actual at the airport security.
So. Oh yes, at the airport it was. Yeah, and Jerry did one as well. Jerry did sort of not real, kind of. It was different.
Yeah, I thought that was. Yeah. That was using like the radar stuff, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, that was using something like that. Yeah.
So, anyways, good talks. More coming out.
Sweet.
I didn't get to watch any of them at the actual thing, so it's good for me.
Oh, right. Oh, why? You were too busy.
Oh, I was running around like a chicken. Yeah. I mean,
right. Yeah. Okay.
My head cut off. That's what it is. All right. Let's see. So, other links, because we're starting to run up against our time. Have you seen this one Bitsy and Black Magic probe? I just heard about it from Alicia the other day.
Nope.
So basically, it's like an open version of a hardware debugger for ARM stuff. So that's funny on Kickstarter right now. It's got 3 weeks left. Pretty interesting. They gave away one Bitsy's at the. I was just using that. It's actually, you know, it's a pretty simple breakout for a higher end STM32, like an F4 chip. Right. So that's good on its own, but it's actually. I was explained by the embedded folks that it's about it's actually about the hardware debug stuff for ARM chips, and so that's actually what's interesting. Instead of having to go through like a Kyle or what are some of those other debug, like a Green Hills or whoever it is, right? So so that's interesting. Let's see what else.
Yeah, debuggers don't excite me.
No, I mean I don't know, but.
Yeah, no, for those who float your boat, of course. Right. That's cool. I can dig it.
There's that Nikola, another car company named after Tesla, but it's called Nikola, and they're doing a semi truck that's hydrogen electric based.
Come on, pick a freaking original name. I mean, goodness. Yeah. It was bad enough Tesla.
Yeah.
It was bad enough.
Yeah.
Nikola Motors. I mean.
There's others out there. I think there's one that's like named after Watt, I think, too. Yeah.
Anyway, they've got a hydrogen electric semi-truck.
Right. That's interesting. I think that,
what they do, they're not sure which technology is going to be the winner.
No. It's a hydrogen fuel cell that then charges batteries that then drive the motor.
Oh, okay, right.
But it's all about the range, right? So that's what it comes down to.
So it is a fully electric truck. It just uses
exactly. Right. It's just you wouldn't ever be able to charge something that large in the first place.
Right, okay.
Right, and that's, I mean, honestly, I think that kind of like hybrid model anyways is interesting even for like a Tesla, right? Those things only get like 200-300 miles of charge.
The Holden... Does the Holden Volt work like that? Which of the
the Volt does.
Cars?
Yeah, so the Volt
does. Yes,
it only has charge for like 40 miles, I think.
40 miles, but it's got a fuel tank, which then
Right.
drives a generator, which
Exactly. Yeah.
charges the battery, which
Right.
can get you like 500 miles or something.
Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
that's
most of the
Chevy
time
here, by the way. Chevy is holding.
Oh, Chevy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just a shame they're too expensive here.
They are. Yeah, they're expensive everywhere. Yeah, they're
They're
really
right.
expensive. They're like
Okay.
$60,000 there, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, not as expensive as the $150,000 Tesla. so-
Right. I think you guys just have import stuff, anyways. But
Yeah,
but
we
they're
have
still
import
pricey around here. So I think
Right.
Chevy's got another one that's coming out in 2017. That's I forget what it's called, but it's supposed to be like sub $30,000 in the States without subsidy. With sub, I don't know, but like exciting times either way. So that's good.
They've sold They've got 7,000 truck orders
Yeah. Oh yeah.
valued at 2.3 billion. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's on the
Wow.
books, but I mean until they deliver.
So
yeah.
they paid their $1,500
Yeah.
deposit. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not much to pony up if you're buying a truck that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, presumably.
Yeah, it's
Right.
interesting. I mean, I think so. Like that's really interesting too, because if you have a new truck entrant, the thing that interests me about all this is actually not even the electric piece. It's that like I think that a truck that's more towards electric. Obviously, there are the environmental implications, and I think that's important. But like a truck rather that's more towards electric and is just outside of like the existing manufacturers that is more prone to have autopilot in it, and I think that is a big deal. When trucks go
Right.
autopilot, that's huge, right? And if you had a really high,
It's a huge amount of carnage. That's what it is.
for jobs and stuff like that, you mean, or
No.
for safety?
No, for safety. I mean, a truck
Oh.
is plowing down the motorway at 110,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, K's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Right.
Which is the
65
maximum
or
speed.
65
Yeah.
miles per hour. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
Anyway,
I think but I think from like a jobs perspective, I think from a safety perspective, and if you have, imagine like at night, imagine like if you had an autopilot truck that could go. I think they said it had some kind of crazy range. It could just keep going, right? It doesn't have to stop, right?
Because the problem at the moment is the humans.
Yeah.
Right. They have to stop. There are laws about truck. Well,
Right.
at least in
As there
this
should
country,
be.
there
As
are
there should be,
laws.
yeah.
Like you can't, be hyped up on drugs and drive 12 hours straight. Right. There are laws against that.
Right.
Right. For valid
Right. And
reasons.
so if you imagine that like a truck only has to stop to refuel and then it just keeps going,
Exactly.
That's a big deal for logistics and everything else, because that's a huge piece of the state's logistics. So
yes.
yeah, so that's a big one. There was another one about automation. There's another article about automation that we can post that is about technology and not trade. Blah blah blah. We've talked about that 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Nah.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, I think so. People can always go on our subreddit. We post links there. We got to like 40 links. We didn't even complain
Yeah,
about
it's a
the
lot.
toaster oven, Dave, the $1,500 toaster oven. I saw you posted.
Oh, was that on there?
That was,
Oh,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I tweeted that somewhere along the line. I think that's just another example of
Yeah.
just like the sheer stupidity of the venture capital people to think that would be an investment worthy
Right.
of put in. How much was it? How much money did they get?
Oh, they're if I know. I don't know.
Oh, for this toaster oven, that like, oh my god! And once again, it was on Paul, what's his nuts blog, ex Ubeam guy. He does an excellent blog on venture capital
I know what
startup.
you're talking about.
Yep. And yes. Anyway, we'll link it in down below, and it's like
30
another
million, 30 million VC capital.
$30 million to invest in an $1,100 toaster oven or whatever it is that is of course hooked up to your app and it cooks things it's a freaking toaster. Like
Right.
god.
Yeah.
And anyway, he destroys it in his blog article. It's great.
So speaking of cooking and VC, next week we will be talking with Abidan Ross, who runs Root.vc. It's a hardware VC company.
Right.
And so we'll be talking with him. And so if people have questions, so he gave a talk at SuperCon as well about cooking a pizza in 45 seconds, but he also happens to be a VC, and he's hardware focused and one of the best out there as far as I know. And actually he invested in Particle and that Instrumental, which did that teardown of the phone and stuff. So
okay.
There's been threads all throughout this episode, but we'll be talking to him next week, and we'll have a thread if people have questions about raising money or specifically in hardware, and we can talk about this probably next week too.
Awesome.
Excellent. All right, man. Well, write in with your questions. Oh, if people haven't shared last week's episode, I don't even Dave even heard me enter that before the before the episode. What we did last week, if you share the episode and you send proof of it to contest@theamphour.com, you get entered in the drawing for the signed copy of Art of Electronics. There have been some very creative ones. One was a picture of a phone. I don't know how he took a picture of a phone, but he forced his coworker to listen to the Amp Hour while driving from Perth to somewhere else, and you know that's not a short drive. So
gold, no, Perth to anywhere is not a short drive.
That was awesome. So creativity is rewarded. So thank you.
Oh, brilliant.
Yep.
All right. Yes, as always, thanks to our Patreon supporters.
Of course.
And you can, as we don't mention it much, but you can follow us on YouTube. Is our auto updating thing still working on YouTube?
It is, yeah. Yeah, if you prefer
YouTube. It is, because I found, don't tell you this, I found that my auto Facebook update plugin for WordPress hasn't been working for 6 months, and nobody told me. I just didn't notice.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, automation, man.
I guess...
That's the problem. It lulls you to sleep, and then you're...
Yeah, I know. And then it stops working, and you don't realise. And then, hopeless.
Yeah. All right. Well, talk to you next week.
Catch you next time.